morning, everybody. Welcome to Wake Up with Toastmasters. My name is Jean Williams. I'm your Program Quality Director for District 115, which is Southern Nevada and a little piece of Utah. And this is my co-host, Jean Danford. Hi, Jean.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Happy Friday.
Glorious Friday.
Well, happy Friday, folks. So I thought we would talk today about, we always see the tagline. If you look at any of the Toastmaster things, it says Toastmasters, where leaders are made. And today I thought we'd talk about how. Because when I first saw that, I thought, okay, I knew it was about public speaking, but how in the world does that equate to leadership? Because a lot of people can talk and a lot of people can lead, but sometimes, it doesn't always equate. So today I thought we'd talk about how does Toastmasters prepare you and make you a better leader, either a better leader or a leader to begin with. And I'm going to go with the idea that maybe you've never thought about leadership, because a lot of our members come in, I'd say probably more than half, who are very, very shy or timid about speaking, or very withdrawn, very unsure of themselves and their skills and their abilities. I say it's probably more than half, and that's an unverifiable statistic. but I'd say my experience, less than half of the people that come in are great speakers right away. Far less than half. I think the majority of them come in and need to learn to public speak, and they'll say, well, I had a job interview, I couldn't even look at the people, or I get so shy, it's hard to make friends. So I go to events like a party. I was at my sister-in-law's wedding, my sister-in-law's baby shower, and I could barely talk to people. I want to be better. And that's where we start with. So how does that take that person and make them into a leader? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we start with our club meetings. The person wanders in for the first time, decides to join, and now right away we have speeches. And the first one's a 4 to 6 minute speech, an icebreaker. We learn about you and who can talk better about themselves, who can talk better about you than you. But for a person who's extremely timid about public speaking, that's a mountain to climb. And we help you along the way. So we help you with encouragement, of course. And you usually, when you join, you have a speech mentor who helps you with your first 3 or 5 projects, depending on how much you need them. And that's someone who just sits with you and says, what are you thinking about talking about? How can I help you? What are you concerned about? And just really sits down and works with you to stand up and get the courage to give that first speech. After you give that first one, you've broken the ice, and it's a little bit easier to talk to your club after that. Then that same mentor, though, you get to watch them lead you and help you along the way. So you finally get to restart giving speeches. Meanwhile, you've also are learning other roles in a meeting. One of the roles, of course, we've talked about before is our grammarian, which gives the word of the day, the awe counter that talks about ahs and ums and the verbal pauses and the things that can make your speech very distracting, where the listener has trouble listening to you, because your mannerisms and your filler words are very distracting. So we work on polishing those out. So as a new member, you might be the grammarian, or you will be the grammarian one day, you will be the awe counter one day, and you're listening and giving feedback at your report at the end of the meeting, which is feedback. Another role you're doing in a meeting is in a speech evaluation, where you're listening to the person speak and giving evaluation. And we use the sandwich approach. Something I really liked about the speech, 2, 3 things I really liked about the speech, things that were incredible, things that really got my attention. And then 1 or 2 or even 3 things that you can improve upon. When I'm giving an evaluation, I go with something really tiny, something kind of medium, and something to really challenge themselves to improve. It could be something, eye contact with this side of the room. In addition to that, that's something small that's easy to fix. A medium one might be, your introduction, you started apologizing. I don't know everything there is to know about iguanas, but I'm going to tell you what I do know. Maybe if you challenge yourself, your opening could be, have you ever thought about iguanas? And then go from there. So that's a way to change your opening. Or a more challenging thing could be, if at the ending you did this, but it would have been better in the middle, and you could have done that. So that's more challenging. Or I really challenge you to do more research and talk about iguanas in more detail. You want to say something, Jean?
I
Oh,
had something to add for your evaluations.
mhm.
The evaluator is not the rehasher of the speech. I've seen that when the evaluator says, and you said this, and then you said that, and then you said this, and you said that. Not the purpose of the evaluation. Evaluate the presentation, not the material. That's the key to the whole speech evaluation. You can give any speech, but you have to give it in the right format and not it can't be something that is ambiguous and all of that, but any information you put out about your speech is not what the evaluator is looking for. He's looking for how you stood there. Did you twitch? Did you move around? Did you have good eye contact? What were your gestures like? And if you do ramble on and on and on, they can say, hey, you kind of got off subject and we're rambling along over here, but you came back on subject, and you know, but it's not an evaluation. And the evaluator, it's their opinion. Some of the evaluators I've seen in the past said, oh, you can't have credit for that. You didn't do it right. Not your job. Not your job at all as an evaluator. The project's done, the project's done. Right, Gene?
Well, another thing that comes up with evaluations, and this, you're not doing somebody a favor if your evaluation is, oh, it was perfect. It was so perfect. I can't think of anything you could do better. The minute somebody gave me that evaluation, I was so disappointed. I thought, do you really think that that's the best I can do? Imagine being a football coach and your running back is he just has this one thing he does that kind of slows him down. But if you say, oh, it was so perfect, then why aren't we winning more games? Why aren't we getting more touchdowns? Why aren't we getting more passes? No, there's always room for improvement. Even Olympic athletes, there's always room for improvement. And they know that and they work real hard at it. And Toastmasters is about working hard to make yourself better, to get your race going faster, to do things better for you. And if your evaluator, oh, it was perfect. It was just so perfect. Oh my God, I can't think of anything you could do better. You're really disservicing the person. Now, of course, being overly critical could be just as detrimental. So that's why I try to find something I really like, one or two or three things to improve upon. Again, something small, medium, large, and then wrap it up with what I really like, what really moved me about the speech, and give words of encouragement. So that's the sandwich approach. You're learning that every time you give a speech evaluation, every time you give any kind of evaluation, so that again equates over to leadership. Think about an employee coming into your office for their annual evaluation and you saying, oh, it was perfect. It was so perfect. You had a perfect year. And that's why I've given you threes on a scale of 1 to 5. Here you go. But if I was perfect, why would I only be getting threes? Well, because well, I don't want to hurt your feelings. No. Or the worst one is this, and I actually had a manager to give me this evaluation verbally. I don't like you. I don't like anything about you. The happiest minute of my day is when you leave, and so on. She went, it was just horrible. And I cried easy, and I didn't then. I was so shocked. Just sat there. She said, but you do good work, and I have to acknowledge that. And she gave me a good score, but that wasn't uplifting or motivating at all. And Jean uses the phrase evaluate to motivate, and that absolutely is what we're doing, what we're trying to do. And the better you get at giving evaluations, the better that's going to carry over into management, where you'll be able to bring in that employee and say, I really like the way you do this, this, and this. I love that. I love the project you worked on when you did that, you did this, you did that. I would have liked to see a little more follow through. I would have liked to see you give more concise reports. The report you gave after that fantastic project left a little bit to be desired. And then give constructive, measurable feedback, and then end with, that's why I'm glad you're in my group, and here's your evaluation. That's a great management style that carries over. So you learn that in Toastmasters, perfected in Toastmasters in this nice protected environment, so you get a chance. And you can even ask, somebody else, when you give your evaluation, the general evaluator evaluates your evaluation. So what should happen is, if you've given a very harsh evaluation, your general evaluator should say, came across a little harsh there when you evaluated Fred's speech. And, or your general evaluator could say, when you evaluated Myrna's speech, you told her it was perfect, but you didn't tell her how, or, so there you go. Your general evaluator is evaluating you. And then when you become a general evaluator, you're evaluating the evaluators. So those meeting roles build on each other and build on each other. Pretty soon you don't need your mentor anymore. You might even be asked to be a mentor for a brand new member. And then you can help them with their first 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 projects. So those things are all leadership skills though, and they really are. Then meanwhile, you're still moving through your paths and pathways. By this time, you're probably done with level 1, and now you're into level 2, and you get projects like your leadership style. What is your leadership style? Has a information to go over in pathways, some videos to watch, some articles to read, to learn more about your leadership style, and give a speech then to your club about your leadership style. Another option that comes with some paths is communication styles. What is your communication style? You'll have some paths have one, some paths have the other, but that'll help you learn. Maybe you are looking at that thinking that's not an effective style. How can I learn more about another leadership style or another communication style? So now you're at level 2, you get those projects.
One of the projects in there is dealing with a, what's the word? Disruptive audience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one too. And it's fun. It's kind of staged, and it's really hard on Zoom too, but it's where you ask people to be disruptive, and then but you don't know how they're going to be disruptive. You just know they're going to be disruptive. And it's how you deal with that. And you don't get flustered, and that you stay calm, and that you stay refocus the person who's not focused, or answer the question off topic and bring it back to topic. And it's a very challenging project, and some people shy away from it, but have fun with it, because you're in a safe, protected group. Even if you flop horribly, even if you just stand there paralyzed with fear, it's okay. Someone in the audience is going to say, well, I think that Fred's wrong. Fred, answer, and they bring you back. They'll help you.
The really great thing about that is you get with the vice president of education and tell them what your project is, and they're the ones that assign the different disruptors. You don't even know who those people are going to be. There's like one that's on his telephone, and one that's doing this, and one that's doing that, and they're all one that talks back to you and all of that. So it's a really good fun. I thought I had fun with that project.
Yeah, I had fun being in the audience of one, because I got to be the person who kept unmuting myself and talking to people in the audience, unmuting myself. Oh, make the dog stop bark, that kind of thing. So it's a fun project. When anybody does it, you have fun with it too. But that dealing with a disruptive audience, those could be clients. If you're going into leadership, those could be your employees. It could just be day-to-day interruptions. You're working on a project, you're on a phone call, and you have an employee coming to the door of your office. It's urgent, it's urgent. So all those things, you're learning more and more about leadership.
In my case, it was my boss.
Kept coming here. I know. I saw this little joke. It said, this TV show is really boring. And the boss says, that's a Zoom call. We're in training, So yeah. So you get those, and then another project you come along as you get to the electives. You got the disruptive audience, and then another one is working with a team. And that's the first little thing, an introduction to working with more than just you. And that is where you gather a team together, 3, 4, 5 people to work together as a team to get something done. One example I thought was super fun is the Toastmaster had their family help them put up Christmas lights, which you think, okay, how in the world is that working? Oh, it is. So one was in charge of making the hot cocoa and the cookies and stuff for after the lights were put up. Another one was in charge of everything on a ladder. The other one was in charge of everything on the ground. And you think about, oh yeah, that would be working with a team. Okay. So it met the requirements, and it was fun too. But working with a team can be anything, Toastmaster related or not Toastmaster related. And you're again working with the team. So that's again helping your leadership skills. And then right along at that same time, things that are happening in your club other than your pathways things, you might be asked to help with a club success plan, asked to participate, asked to brainstorm, have a discussion, what can make the club better, what can make the club more receptive to the members. Even if you're not on a committee to do that, you're giving feedback, you're helping, you're making suggestions. And those are all things that again play into leadership. then you might be asked to be on a committee. Maybe your club is having an open house and someone is doing a project where that's their high performance leadership project or DTM project. We'll talk about that in a second. And you're being asked to be on one of the committees and help out. There again, you might be asked to be on the decorations committee. So you find 2 or 3 people to help you. And now you're leading those people. Okay, you bring the crepe paper and the balloons, and you need to help me arrange the tables and chairs. And you make sure we have sign-in sheets and things like that. Now you're again leading a small committee that's part of a bigger project, and that is management again, or leadership again. So again, don't shy away from helping somebody with their project. If they say I have a high performance leadership project or a DTM project, I need your help. Don't shy away from that, because those again are leadership skills that you can apply. Plus then they'll help you with yours. So the high performance leadership project, and we've talked about that before, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with that right now, but it's where you get a lot more moving parts to your project. You'll have usually a steering or guidance committee. Then you're working with them to say, this is my vision, this is my idea, this is what I want to accomplish. It doesn't have to be Toastmaster related. It can be work for a nonprofit. Maybe you're handling a book drive at your kids' elementary school, or maybe you're handling an event where people from the community are going to do a career day for kids at your school, your kids' school. Anything along that line that helps the community. You wouldn't have them coming over to clean your yard. That's not acceptable. But having people come over to help you make the world a better place, so to speak, or do something Toastmaster related as well. So you're working with your guidance committee. Then you have your different committees. If you have a huge open house or a club party, it could be that you have somebody in charge of decorations, and then they work with people, somebody in charge of finding the venue, and somebody in charge of finding a guest speaker. And then all those different committees, you're guiding those committees and you're bringing this whole project to success. And that's your high performance leadership project. It's also very similar to your distinguished Toastmaster project. The difference is not every path has an HPL or high performance leadership project, but everyone who wants to get a distinguished Toastmaster needs to finish the DTM project. So those things though, now again, you're doing leadership along the way. So now you're working on your path, you're working on your pathways, you're helping with the club success plan, you're giving evaluations, you're giving speeches, table topics. That's another one, helps you with impromptu speaking, which certainly helps you with interviews to get to those management positions, but also helps you think of concise questions. And look how maybe your question's too vague, you don't get the answer you want, but you ask table topic questions that are specific and measurable, and you get better feedback or better answers. So all those things are happening. And you're thinking, wow, I am learning a little bit about leadership. And about that time, come January, or actually December or May, and someone comes to you and says, you know, you have leadership potential. You should be a club officer. And you've seen this happen because you've been in the club, and you've seen the vice president of education working with you to make sure you get your goals met. The vice president membership was one that welcomed you into the club to begin with. The vice president of public relations is talking about flyers and things that they're putting out, and social media that they're doing during club meetings. They're talking about that. And all of a sudden they say to you, hey, why don't you be our sergeant at arms? Well, if you're an online club, that could be being the Zoom master, which is a whole nother set of skills that in today's work environment is very relevant. If you're in an in-person club, then that's bringing in things, arranging the room, making sure people are seated and people have chairs, all those things. So there's either one that's a different skill set, welcoming people into the meeting, making sure that people have what they need and supplies are ordered and ready. So now you've been a club officer. So now you're a club officer. You've been sergeant at arms for 6 months or a year, depending on your club. Then at some point they push you farther, because they're always pushing you. That's one thing about Toastmasters. You get pushed, but you get support along the way. So that's where someone might say, you know, when you helped Fred with the flyer, you did a great job. What if you think about being our public relations manager? We're going to give you training. You're going to be all set. Well, okay, but they're going to help you. You will. You get help along the way. Now you're learning more about social media. You're learning more about working with the team leaders. You're having a club, your club executive committee, which is your club officers, are having meetings, and you're in a meetings again, or you're leading a meeting. Maybe you're the club president. Then you are leading the club, and you're leading the meetings in the club and the club success plan and all the things that go with it, which is absolutely leadership skills. And then one day it happens. Someone says, you have great leadership skills. You should be an area director. And if you're like most people and you're active in your club and you're having lots of fun and you say, what's an area director? Oh, you'd be great at it. But what is it? Oh, you're in charge of 4 clubs. We've talked about that on this show before. And you really do learn a lot about so many things as an area director. It's skills you think, well, I'm already a club president. I'm already in leadership. What can I possibly learn now? And that's when area director introduces you to 3 or 4 different clubs that all have different styles and different personalities and different things that make them successful. Or maybe you have a club that's struggling a little bit, and now you are in charge of these different clubs with different issues and different needs, and you're bringing those needs to the district, and you're bringing resources from the district to the clubs. And wow, you've just got them into the deep end, but you have support. So you got the little floaties on your arms, you're okay. It's all good. But you learn a lot about leadership as an area leader. And then part of that is planning your contest. We finished contest season not too long ago. We're actually not completely done because the worldwide contest is coming up in a month or 2. But you do learn about organizing and planning by planning your area contest. And along the way, somebody sees you and says, oh, Gene, you wanted to add to the area director part.
I did. So one of the things about area director, and I believe they've eliminated the clause that said you had to be a BPE or president. So you don't have to be that. It would be nice if you were a club officer, but it's more open now to be an area director. And the purpose of the area director is to manage those 4 clubs that Gene was talking about. It could be less than 4, but 4 to 6 is the max. And when I became an area governor a long time ago, now that we're called directors, I had 6 clubs, and 6 is the maximum that you can handle. So there were 6 clubs in my area, and it was almost like being president of all 4 clubs or all the clubs at once, because you're helping so much with the clubs, working with the club presidents and bringing that meeting to a higher standard. And then one of the things I think we should stress, and we don't, we never have, is to find your replacement. As an area director, look for somebody in that area that you've worked with, that's helped you, that's willing to become the next area director. And that way you can hand off what has happened to him or her and continue on with your great leadership in the next area director. That's all.
No, you're right. It is in that by finding someone who's going to be a replacement, then again, you're mentoring along the way. But so now you see of all these skills, and for me, getting out of my club and being an area director, I enjoyed it. It was really a lot of fun. It was meeting people and meeting clubs and realizing that I could help, that I had the ability to help with whatever they needed. Sometimes it was just something like, our banner ripped. Is there some way to get a new banner? Okay, then I have to find resources and figure out what that is. Or we need help with our club success plan. We've never done one. Or can you install our officers? And each club has such different needs. You could have a club that's, one of my clubs was Windjammers, Wednesday morning, 7:30, Skinny Dugan's. And it was very organized, very, it's one of the longest running club in Las Vegas. So they didn't need the easy, they didn't need the easy stuff. They needed the hard stuff. They needed our not exactly our banners ripped, but they needed those really hard to find things. Whereas one of my brand new clubs needed just real basic things like, how can we arrange our room to make our meetings more effective? How can our agendas be more effective? Can you attend our business meeting? Can you tell us about a club success plan? So that gamut, and you think of, if you became a leader of a work group, you'll have some very experienced people who know their job, and they rarely need to talk to you because they do it well and they do it for a long time. You could have other employees that are brand new and you're teaching them every little thing about the job because they need to build all their basic skills. Same thing, you're learning that as an area director and as a club officer as well. Think about being the vice president membership. You have members that have been there forever, and you have members that are brand new and join while you're an officer. So again, you're working with a variety of people and a variety of clubs. When you become an area director, I went the next step up and became a division director. And now I'm working with area directors, and that's next level management. And it gets real challenging because if you think about when there's a personnel problem, it goes up. So then you get this thing thrown in your lap. These two people are fighting, and then you're using mediation skills. You're using your ability to talk and interact and listen and compare and so on. And it just, everything just keeps ramping your leadership skills up to the next level. So you're no longer that little timid person who walked in the very first time and shook like a leaf while you give a 2-minute icebreaker. Now you're the confident leader that says, oh, well, we can handle that. Oh, well, we can handle that. We did this, we did that. Or that feels comfortable asking for help when it's needed. And that is how leaders are made. Oh, see, there you go. So it does teach leadership skills. And it's funny that I didn't think about when does it start until I was actually thinking about what should we talk about today. And then I realized, yeah, speech evaluations, table topics, giving a speech, all those things from the very minute you enter the door. You might have come to learn public speaking and the leadership part might hit you in the back of the head, but you're going to learn leadership. Even if that wasn't your plan, even if your plan isn't to go into management. And it was kind of on a side note, kind of funny. One person said that if giving an evaluation served him best, not at work, but in his own home, evaluating with his son, walking in the room and saying, you did a really nice job cleaning this part of the room. I know that you could do an equally good part cleaning this part of the room because look how organized this is. And just that giving that sandwich approach of an evaluation served him so well as a father compared to like the parent that my parents were. You just walk in and start screaming, you didn't finish. That's not motivating. Well, it is when you're a kid because you don't have a choice, but it's not motivating after a certain time. So all those things just keep feeding into leadership skills, listening, talking, interacting, mentoring, helping people improve, improving yourself, giving feedback, everything, all of it plays in. And it's an exciting journey. I encourage you to take it if you haven't yet. So if you haven't found a club, if you're in a Toastmaster club, focus on your leadership skills. What are you learning? How can you learn it better? How can you be someone who mentors someone else who's on the leadership path? If you're not in Toastmasters yet, there's one more reason to join. You'll be, even if you don't want to be a professional speaker, the leadership skills will serve you well. Anything in our Facebook or anything to add, Gene?
Just shouting out hello to Jennifer, who's been online with us. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining us this morning. And I wanted to throw in one more thing about companies. If you would like to promote your employees with an education program that builds better leaders and better speakers, Toastmasters is the way to go. And you can either contact us or you can go on the toastmaster.org website. And there's a button that says start a club. Click there and we'll get you all the information, how you can start a club at your business, and we will build it and help you all every step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really does tie in because we've been talking about leadership in like a company. And it does absolutely tie in because if your employees, the one word I'd say people ask, what have I got out of my leadership journey? Confidence. Absolutely confidence. Confidence in speaking and expressing an opinion and giving feedback, confidence. And if you want confident employees that feel comfortable selling your product, talking about your product or service, selling themselves, working with teams, working with others, giving good feedback, absolutely. You're missing the boat if you don't have a Toastmaster meeting. And now the nice thing is with Zoom, if you have employees in multiple locations, you can still have a Toastmaster club at your company. It can be online, and you can bring in your employees from other divisions, even other states, other countries, to bring them all together. And then there's the networking aspect of a Toastmaster club in your company as well. Thanks for mentioning that, Jean. Well, I think that's all the time we have. So thanks for coming with us on this leadership journey today. And we'll see you on Monday with Mark Your Calendar Monday. We'll have all the great details about the upcoming TLI, which is next Saturday, the 25th. So look for, let me make sure it's the 25th. Yes, the 25th. So look for Mark Your Calendar Monday. We'll go over what time every class is, what are the classes. Jennifer, give me a title to your speech. And we'll look for you then on Monday morning. Wake up with Toastmasters 6 a.m. If you see us on Facebook, like, comment, share, be one of our followers, and feel free to give us feedback and comment whenever you want. Thank you very much and have a good day.